Folks, it's the second day of the week. I hope your week is actually off to a great start. And my guest and I, we're about to reflect on the stories making the airwaves. And those joining me in studio this morning, Awal Ibrahim, Awal Mohammed, beg your pardon. I would have changed your name this morning. Awal Mohammed from YEA. And YEA, right? Former head of public relations at Youth Employment Agency. Of course, next we have James Kofi Annan, 2024 parliamentary candidate for a Futu and child rights advocate. I'll come to you in a bit to explain why the shift or the sudden change in that. And then, of course, former GJA President Afel Moni. Thank you all so much for joining us. I want to start with you, Mr. Annan. Yeah, sorry, you said it was a pleasure. I was just in a hurry to get to Mr. Kofi Annan.
Yes.
So when did you become a child rights advocate? I know you as a parliamentary candidate for a Futu. You went against Apenyo Markin.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a human rights and environmental advocate.
Right.
That has been my work for several years. So I'm sure that's where your producer might have picked it from. So,
okay.
Yes, I was the parliamentary candidate for NDC in a Futu constituency for both 2020 and 2024.
Right. Yeah.
And
so you see, we know you as a politician more than we know your advocacy work, I think.
Yeah, but my advocacy work is rather more than 20 years. My political life is just about 6 years.
Ah, well.
So, I mean, but of course, political issues fly higher than so many other things. So maybe that's the reason why.
All right.
Your producer decided to change my destination.
All right, all right. Gentlemen, I'll give you each at most 2 minutes to reflect on any topical issue that you want to share your thoughts on. I want to start with you, Mr. Moni.
Sweetie, precious good morning. And before I zoom in on my main issue, let me seize the opportunity to sprinkle words of comfort on my sister Meridu, my wife, Mrs. Elizabeth Moni, and Andy, the husband of my niece, who died under tragic circumstances. It hasn't been easy in the past 2 weeks, but thank God we laid her to rest on Saturday, and we have so rest.
My sincerest condolences.
Perfect peace. Let me ventilate the concern of workers in state-owned institutions, or government workers, who are finding it increasingly difficult to navigate the NDC, NPP political divide. And in recent years, the inordinate politicization of state institutions makes it increasingly difficult for such workers who are compelled by officialdom to dance to the tune of the ruling government, no matter how discordant that tune is from professional point of view. Politicians are appointed to head such institutions, and as far as the law is concerned, we cannot fault the appointing authorities. But in the name of heaven, the workers should be allowed to do their professional work. Some are transferred, victimized, some are demoted just because they insist on doing what is right, or they insist on doing what is professional. And so as His Excellency, the President set out to reset the nation, the entire nation, please make sure that government officials who do their work professionally should be insulated from such undue pressures.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moni. And Mr. Annan, your thoughts for us this morning?
Yes, I would like to have commented on my Mr. Moni's comments, but I will leave that for later conversations. I would like to focus on the cholera outbreak in Futu constituency. I'm sure you have heard.
Yes, in fact, I saw that report with you and then going to visit some place here.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
So it's a very difficult situation that we find ourselves in at the moment in the Futu municipality. As at Saturday, we have had 356 cases with 29 confirmed. And between Saturday and yesterday, there were 17 more. That's how alarming it is. And I would like to draw the Ghana Health Service attention to, especially the Director General, that there's anything that can be done quickly to address the situation so that it doesn't become epidemic. I would call them to come in and resolve it. Unfortunately, sanitation situation in a lot of parts of Winneba has not been good, especially around the coastal areas, Sanko, Atakokodo. You may not know the communities.
I do. I went to school.
Yeah, you went to school there.
I know all those
yes,
places.
yes.
Went to school,
Yes.
Oh.
So those are the places that we don't have a lot of, good sanitary conditions. Even where to dispose of refuse is a problem. Places of convenience has been a problem. We have our dumping site right in the middle of the town, and young children who are supposed to go to school don't go to school. They go there and scavenge. They are looking for rubber bags, they are looking for leftovers and so on and so forth. And then they go home with some of these death and germs, and then that infect others. And so I want to commend the municipal hospital staff, especially the superintendent, that's Dr. Amponsa, for the work that they have done since the outbreak. But we are calling for support, urgent support, for the Futu Municipal Hospital to contain the cholera outbreak that we have had.
Thank you so much. And it's a big issue for all of us. I mean, every year we come back to the same topic of cholera. So those who are actually doing something so far, great job. And so of course support so that we can all tackle it head on. Wow. So from politics to health, what are you sharing with us?
I'll still also go by politics.
Okay.
Because good morning to our cherished viewers, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I am a Muslim, and before the elections, one of the topical issues within the Muslim community has been Hajj fares, which the government promised to reduce drastically. That reduction has been done. But unfortunately, this is the first time we're hearing the package on Facebook. We're yet to get the details. How is government going to really finance the shortfall? Because Togo is doing 76,000 cedis. Nigeria is doing 78,000 cedis. Almost all our neighbors are doing over 70,000 cedis. Government is saying he will be able to do 62,000 cedis. But we're yet to hear the details. So we're waiting on government to give us the details, as I commend him for walking the talk by trying to say they have reduced it. But we saw just a message from Shamima Muslim on Facebook and Twitter, and that was the basis of the stories in the news and so on. This is the first time that has happened. Usually, they get us with a fully blown press conference, explain the issues, explain the packages that when they go there, they will be fed morning, afternoon, evening. There will be police protection. There will be a lot of packages for them when they embark on their trip. So we're waiting on government to...
Compared to previous years, would you say the timeline has exceeded, has been passed, when they'll usually, meet you and tell you and break down the details of the price and all that?
Usually
has that time passed?
Yes, it's passed, because 2 weeks ago, there were a lot of these NGOs that work within, they came up with some press conferences and said that, well, usually you pay within this period till the Ramadan. Within the Ramadan, then you stop paying. Then they start the operations, because it just left to 2 months for us to embark on the trip. So we wish it had come earlier, but now they are saying 62,000. How do we pay? Who do we pay to? Which accounts do we pay into? That has not also come. That's why we are a bit worried. We're saying that we're grateful that they have reduced it to 62,000, 13,000 reduction, but we're still waiting for the details.
Okay. Gentlemen, let's do news stories now. We don't have some of the major papers, so let's get to myjoyonline.com and start there. There's a story here about 8 years was enough to prove your case. Shamima Muslim on the dropped prosecutions. In one breath, the president has directed the Attorney General to prosecute those who will be found culpable based on the reports that was presented, the oral committee reports that was presented to them. In another breath, it appears the Attorney General is clearing some people who have ongoing cases. They filed some, suits, nolli prosequi at the High Court or so, because they're saying that there's no really basis to continue those cases. And Shamima is saying that 8 years was enough to prosecute if they really had anything to go by. Gentlemen, are we confused? Is something amiss? Let me start with you. James Kofiana, and I know you have a lot to say. So let's jump right in. Let's take it. What are your thoughts on this?
You know, the power to prosecute is in the bosom of the Attorney General. And so it is the Attorney General that will decide which case the state would put resources behind in its prosecution. And so I would not fault the Attorney General for discontinuing some of the cases. But let me be a bit more specific and into agreeing with what the Attorney General has done and what Shamima has put out there. Look at Atufosun's case, for instance. This case was obviously a persecution, not prosecution, to the extent that after the state had, done its part of the case, it came out that the Attorney General then was actually trying to use the other person against Atufosun, to the extent that Atufosun had to go to appeals court in order to affirm the no prosecution, or how do you put it in legal terms? It says after he had the state has stated its case,
right,
the Atufosun had to go on appeal to say that there was no merit in what the state has stated, and yet the state was bent on prosecuting the man. I'm not a lawyer. I'm sure you are not a lawyer as well. But it was obvious to all of us that it was a setup to mute the voice of the then minority leader. Let's look at Opuni's case. It was in the news all over that this man had caused financial loss to the state. This causing financial loss to the state, I have my own challenges with it. But let's grant the government that you want to make sure that people do not assume office and be negligent about their work. You have chemicals that have been produced, have been supplied, has been used, and yet you say that somebody has caused a loss to the state. How do you use the same product that you are accusing somebody of causing financial loss to the state when those chemicals were not disposed of or thrown away? So these are some of the things that make somebody feel that maybe there's some political persecution. I've been a victim of the court processes. That is not the topic for discussion today. But I see that if we don't take care, the state will be allowed to prosecute or persecute political opponents just for the sake of muting their voices, just for the sake of maybe gagging them. That is the reason why I believe that I support Shamima's call that 8 years is enough for you to have proven your case, if you have any case to prove at all. How many people are we talking about?
So
talking about,
I just want, just for context, right?
Yes.
Most of these cases involve financial loss to the state, right? I'm not speaking for you. Hold on. So when you take Collins Dawuda, for example, the charge was 70 counts of causing financial loss to the state to the tune of $200 million in terms of the Saglemi housing project, right? And the second one I want to look at would be Dr. Ernest Thompson, former Director General of SNIT. And his charge was financial impropriety, causing financial loss to the state. And the money involved, $66 million. That's the second one. The third one I want to look at, I think he cleared about 7 of them. I just want to make, according to what you're talking about, Dr. Kesel Atufosun, his involved 2.37 million euros, right? All these monies, if indeed there's nothing amiss, why not leave it to the courts? I know you're talking about political interference in there, right? Using the courts as a way to persecute the opponent and so on and so forth. But why is it difficult for the courts, the judiciary, to conclude on this matter without, political, parties playing a football of a sort with it. This one placed it this way, this one placed it that way. Why can't we just leave it to the courts, an independent institution, to bring some sort of finality to these matters?
There are processes, and everyone has a role. You're talking about 2.something million. You're talking about somebody 60 million. The question I want to ask you is, did the accountant general or whoever was in charge of finance just left that amount of money and gave it to them to use and they didn't use it? Is that what you are talking about? No, certainly no. They might have used the money for the purpose for which the money was used. Just that you are asking for accountability.
Okay.
It is this accountability that you have to make sure that you prosecute it in such a way that everybody sees that you are being fair to all parties.
Okay. You also just spoke about processes.
Yes.
So what the Attorney General did, is it following due process?
Yeah, of course. The Attorney General is following process by, that is the power vested in him by the Constitution, either to initiate or discontinue prosecution.
Great.
And so once he's done that,
does this government, led by the Attorney General, in the you know what we are talking about, in the context of what we are talking about, do they not owe us any sort of explanation? Talking about transparency, accountability. You came into power on the back of transparency, accountability, and jobs, I think. But if you're being transparent and accountable, why don't you tell the Ghanaian people that we have seen this, that, and that. These are the number of pieces of evidence we have, and because of so and so, we think that there's no really
it's early days yet, my sister. Early days yet. Okay.
We need to listen to the others. I'll circle back to you. Wow, what's your take on this matter?
Thank you so much. I think I will go by the article by Manasseh Azure Awin when he said this is a senior clearing agent. Looking at the enormity of the cases, you have mentioned about 2. When you check the case, out of the 7, 2 of them, it is rational you can discontinue it. For instance, the Democracy Hub. Ghana does not lose anything if really these people are set free. Again, Kokubuahi and Ofoso Ampofo, it's as a result of a leak tape, and they were sent to court and so on. But if my sister Shamima is saying that 8 years was enough for us to prove the case, as if the court said that they have really truncated the case because of want of prosecution. Prosecution was still ongoing. And again, if you tell me this, it means there is a way we can secure judgment without necessarily passing through due process. We have former President Mills of blessed memory saying that the wheels of justice grind slowly. The case is still in court. If you want to file a nolle prosequi, you do not owe anyone explanation. You can still do it and file it. But in the cases where there are criminal and there are financial implications for the state, you don't necessarily have to go and say you have filed nolle prosequi. Look at Bank of Ghana, for instance. Johnson Siamon. Johnson Siamon is in court because 2 of the banks that was taken over by GCB, that is a UT Bank and Unibank. These are 2 banks that, according to the prosecution, he led, his negligence led the 2 banks to collapse. Now, because you want that man to be appointed as Governor Bank of Ghana, you quickly discontinue the case and appointed him Governor Bank of Ghana. When you check the quality asset review by Bank of Ghana that was done in 2015, it was clearly mentioned that these banks will collapse as a result of capital inadequacy and lack of supervision by Bank of Ghana. Someone who has done this, supervised a collapse of 2 banks.
Right.
Today is the Governor Bank of Ghana. Again, when you check Senate, they bought some software, and the software cost us such colossal amount of money. Yeah. And we said that that was unacceptable. Then the case traveled through the court. Now you have discontinued the case and they are free. When you check even the Bank of Ghana one,
but you know this does not mean the case is terminated completely.
That's true.
It means that if new evidence comes to light,
yes,
they can go back and try the case.
That is true.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that if you do this, you're telling me as a politician that if I go ahead to misappropriate public funds and do everything, what I can do is to buy time. within the 8-year period, I can just buy time within the court so that by the time my government comes back to power, then they can file nolle prosequi. That is wrong.
Okay.
We need some explanations why you are taking Johnson Asiama out, but the other people are still in court. For instance, the UT Bank officials, they are still in court. You have not discontinued their case. Again, Unibank, they are also still in court. Now, you have taken him off just because you want to give me an appointment.
Well, you can't say that's on authority.
But why do you discontinue
That's the only reason why they free him.
But you see, you leave room for speculations when you don't give us reasons why you've taken that person out. Again, when you check the SAG limit, on the SAG limit, they were given $200 million to construct 5,000 housing units. They used the same amount to construct 1,400 housing units without drainage, without electricity, without anything that will make it habitable. Some people are in court for this. Now the person has, the Attorney General has filed nolle prosequi to exonerate them, to take them out of the case. It tells you that the aura...
It's not an exoneration. It's the point I'm trying to... They've discontinued trying the case.
Yes.
But if new evidence comes to light, then nolle prosequi.
Which evidence
mean
again?
That they are completely acquitted.
You see,
you know?
What they are saying is that they think that is persecution rather than prosecution. Okay. So they are not interested in even finding new evidence to even check whether the case is there. So I think...
I'll circle back to you. Mr. Wani, what are you leaning towards on this case?
I'm inclined to side with both of you that there's a need for explanation, convincing explanation by officialdom on why the cases were discontinued. I think the legal dictum, justice delayed, justice denied, comes into play in all these cases. For 8 good years, these gentlemen have been on trial. And we have an instance where the Supreme Court, with supersonic speed, settled on a matter. And why can't the processes be fast-tracked so that the suspects will know their fate, either they are guilty or not guilty? But for 8 good years, just imagine the mental torture to which they've been subjected. And look at the cause, physical, emotional, all that they've been through. Hell. It will be hellish for all the suspects. And we cannot subtract politicization from others. So there's a need for explanation, deeper and convincing explanation by officialdom why the cases were discontinued. Even though in filing a case of nolle prosequi, the state is not obliged to give the reason. But given the fact that this discontinuation of this case has struck cause of concern, doubt in the ability of the new government to fight corruption. Already, His Excellency the President has been slapped with an ignoble tag of chief clerical agents, and he has to work hard to clear his claim as far as this case is concerned. So, once again, a call goes to officialdom to come up with a deeper explanation of why these cases were discontinued.
Especially because you said you were going to be accountable, transparent. And so, for me, I think it's the least you can do. But final word, please. And then we move on to other stories.
You see, we have to draw the line between misappropriation, causing financial loss, and civil cases. If a person has misappropriated funds, it's criminal. If somebody has caused financial loss willfully, that is criminal. But if somebody has, in the course of duty, probably underestimated or overestimated in a cost, that is not criminal. So for me, as non-lawyer, as non-lawyer.
Chachi Chikata invested our money into a farm. But he was charged for causing financial loss to the state.
It's a different ballgame.
When you talk about the person in his line of duty took a decision and so on, if you take a decision and there is a financial loss to the state, you've caused financial loss to the state.
Let's remember that in law, I'm not a lawyer, I will always emphasize that, but in law, the intention of the person who committed a crime is so important. If I know that what I am doing or the decision I'm taking is going to cause loss to the state, and I went ahead, despite knowing, to take the decision, and it caused financial loss to the state, that is where a crime has come in.
I'm sorry, but I have to take the wind out of your sail. Yeah, you're on to something here, but we have to move on. I'm sorry, we have to move on. Let's do some other stories, and then I'll come to you. We have two papers here. All set for Council of State elections today, 522 to vote in 16 regions. And already I've seen some story about people, some altercation over who is eligible and who goes in and all that. The Electoral Commission said it is ready to conduct the Council of State elections across the country on Tuesday, that's today, February 11, 2025. The election of the regional representative to the Council of State will take place in all regional capitals, and it will commence at 7 o'clock today and end at 5 p.m. at the regional coordination councils in the various regional capitals. What are your expectations ahead of this? I mean, it's already started. If it has started, we want to know. But what are your expectations? Election for Council of State begins today. Mr. Won, let me start with you.
Already people are raising concerns about the relevance of the Council of State. Some see this institution as quaint and antiquated, an institution which is rooted in anachronism. So the Council of State has an obligation to prove its relevance. And at this time when we ought to cut costs to suit our present circumstances. Certain regions are with that women. Again, general balance is of concern in the Council of State election. About three or so regions, no woman has filed to contest the Council of State. I believe the president will be compelled to strike some gender balance by appointing some women to this state institution. The interest has been low, on a low side. It hasn't dominated the discussion, and maybe this is in proportion to the importance we attach to these state institutions. Right. So let's see how it pans out. So I urge the media to sharpen the focus on the Council of State, not to keep up interest in this institution.
We know that the police have deployed 120 personnel for the elections in the central region so far. Just an update on the story. Mr.
So, you know, the Council of State elections, usually you have each District Assembly nominating 2 delegates to represent at the elections. And you are having each of the regions having 1 person to represent at the Council of State level when it's constituted. So the president also has the power to appoint the rest. Yeah. I agree with Mr. Moni that the relevance of this Council of State, you know, needs to be looked at. If at all it's still relevant, my view is that we should allow the president to appoint all the members of Council of State. It would spare us the unnecessary bickering that somebody who is supposed to be a councillor, somebody who is supposed to be an arbiter, then goes through a very difficult, sometimes acrimonious elections with all the tax and all the fighting that comes with elections before getting to become
Won't that feed into the narrative of giving the president or the executive too much power?
Well, I am
if
one
the
person.
president handpicks Council of State,
yes, I am one
he'll
person.
be doing his bidding
yes.
at all points because he put them there, wouldn't they?
Yes, I am one person who is not so much in support of too many elections, frankly. You see, if you look at
democracy.
Oh, yes, I know. It's democracy. But democracy in Germany practices democracy. How many of Germany's leaders are elected? And for how long? You know, in so many parts of the world, even in UK, do we have the prime minister being elected? No. It is only the party that gets elected, and then we have a prime minister selected out of that. So for me, I don't support a lot of elections because of what I have seen come along with elections. Elections have become so monetized.
All right.
Elections have become so acrimonious. Elections have become so dirty. And even this is assembly elections.
And expensive.
Very expensive. Even this is assembly elections. Go and look at how much money is pumped into that election. And you will say, oh, this is not partisan. Trust me, it is partisan.
Ah, we know that it's the political parties that are sponsoring.
Yes,
the
even the Council of State elections that we are having, it is partisan.
Right.
You know, yes. So it defeats the very purpose for which the Constitution put it there. Yes, now we have nothing we can do about it at this moment. We're going to have the elections. I can only wish the contestants well and ask that all of us play by the rules to ensure that whoever wins, wins fairly. Because we don't want a Council of State members who would have be a member but not fairly elected.
All right,
then what are you going to advise us on?
Yeah. You have the final word on this, Awad.
Yes, when you check the composition and the rationale behind the setting up of the Council of State, I would say that it will have been the best of institutions that we will have. Looking at the institutional representation, you have former Chief of Justice, former IGP, former CDS, the chairperson or chairman of the House of Chiefs. These are automatic members. Yeah. Then you have 16 elected members who are not partisan. Yeah. 16 elected members. That's the reason 2 people from district assemblies come to, who were elected non-partisan, will come and vote for them to be their reps, 16 of them. Then the president appoints 11. So when you check 2/3 of the numbers, it's supposed to be neutral people, kind of. Yeah. And I think if we are to really give it the necessary publicity we give to all our elections, these ones, I don't recall any acrimony in these Council of State elections, looking at the people who contest. Usually chiefs contest. If you go to Ashanti region, for instance, almost all the people there contesting are chiefs, and the majority of them are chiefs, even though we have former regional chairman of the NDC and so on contesting. And an elder in NPP also contesting. So it tells you that, indeed, this is a non-partisan kind of a thing. The last elections in Greater Accra, we had E.T. Mensah winning. He went through the elections and won. But this is a former NDC chair, former NDC youth organizer, former NDC minister, and so on, and hadn't a foundation member of the NDC. So I believe that if the media gives it the necessary publicity before the elections, and we give them that, we tell them that your task is to go there and advise the president, just like we have elders in our party, we have elders in our homes, and so on. It will have been one of the best institutions. The only thing is that people don't even avert their minds to the fact that it's only 11 people that the president appoints. So even if they are to take decisions today, those who are not partisan will be able to really take a decision and advise the president on certain issues that will help the country. Okay,
thank you, gentlemen. Let's get into your papers. Mr. Mone, which one do you have?
Economic Times and the happenings in the cocoa sector are banned on the front page of this story, on this paper. Ghana's cocoa sector at risk of falling further. And the story says unfavorable climatic conditions, smuggling, and diseases like swollen shoot virus and a black pod are predicted to affect Ghana's cocoa output. Deloitte has alarmed in its January 2025 Global Economic Outlook. Thus, coupled with global commodity price fluctuations, are expected to affect revenue from the cocoa sector. Interest rates remain stable during fortnights after BOG retains benchmark rate, and crucial negotiations over public and minimum wage for 2025. The story is back with a picture of Rashid Pepo, the sector minister, who has no choice but to pass his first crucial test.
Mr. Mone, how much do you think would be significant? Would be a significant change or an adjustment, upward adjustment? Because right now we stand around 14 point something, not even up to $1.
Interestingly, the economy is crackling back to life. There are signs which point to.
Is it?
Yes.
We've increased fuel for about 4 times already, Mr. Money.
Interest rates at a standstill. The CD
Anyway,
has improved from its epileptic behavior in the past. And so in the Bank of Ghana, in fact, all indicators show that we are on a upward trajectory as far as the economy is concerned. But this does not obscure. This does not obscure the fact that the cost of living is still bitingly bitter for the ordinary Ghanaian. So there's a need to strike a balance between making, giving workers the right dose of oxygen they need to survive in this economy, whilst not causing the economy to undergo some strain and stress.
All right. Well, they begin discussions today. Let's see what they settle on. Any quick comments on that, and then we get into the final paper, and then
I think that 25 to 30% is reasonable. It's reasonable. Looking at when the economy was even challenged, we had 30% 2 years ago, 25% last year. Even as I speak, as of December, it was 25%. So today, the economy, looking at the economic fundamentals and looking at the other variables, you will know that indeed the economy is picking up. And if they are to do 30% or between 20 and 30%, I think it's reasonable.
Yes. I would have gone straight to 100%.
Hey, ability to pay. Ability to pay comes into play.
That's the reason. That's why I'm being moderate. Looking at last year when we said the economy was doing free falling, 2 years ago when the economy had challenges, we did 30%. The government did 30%, highest in the Fourth Republic. Then it came back to 25% last year. So reasonably, you're not supposed to do less than 20%. Okay.
I'm not sure. You see, at the time government did 30%, inflation was 54%.
No.
Yes.
No.
Inflation was 54%. Just check. At
2023, inflation, it was December 2022.
Yes,
that inflation got to 54%.
That is when government did 30%.
30% was in 2023. Check.
30% was
2023, but in 2022, it was when the inflation moved
so
from 8.
Inflation in 2023 was 39.3%.
Exactly.
I'm saying
so it was changed in 2022 or 2023?
I said, when he said 54%, I said it was in 2022 that it was 54%.
That is what I said. I said that.
So it's okay. Let's just stick to the facts.
So I am saying that when the government did 30%, inflation was 54%.
So
in 2022,
incorrect. You
it was in
2022.
Okay, but I think what he's saying is that when we did that 25%, 30% inflation, that was in 2022.
Inflation was around 2023.
You see, that's why he is confused.
So 2023 inflation was nearly 40%.
But it was not 54.
54 was
2022.
But
that's when we did 30%.
No, we did 30% in 2023. I'm a public sector worker.
Let's move this
so I had staff. I remember that I tied my staff increment to the government increment. And so I know that when government increased salaries to 30%,
I'm a public sector worker.
I also increased my salary, my staff salary by 30%. But let's put that one aside. But remember also that was the time that the interest rate, the exchange rate was in free fall.
No.
You understand? So increment, I'm coming, let me learn. Increment of salaries, usually, if you say that the economy has improved and therefore you have to do higher, that is rather an irony. When your economy is doing well, it means that your inflation is slow. You are not having a lot of inflation or hyperinflation. It means that your exchange rate is not also galloping. So it also then means that a percentage, your ability to increase in terms of percentage, should not be as high as when inflation is high, and should not be as high as when the exchange rate is high. That is how it goes. But me, I'm not going to put any pressure on the government. I believe that the government have the figures. They know at what point or at what stage in our economy Ghana finds itself. So whatever increment that they come, it would have been incommensurate with the state of affairs at the moment. So we should not be too overly, pressuring the government to say that do 25, do 26, and so on and so forth. Let's leave the economy to decide.
The honeymoon.
Gentlemen, that's
it's
all
not about
time will allow us. But I want to get into your
No, I wanted to do this thing quickly. You see, I see this illegal miner jailed for stealing alligator pepper worth 600 Ghana cedis. That is so sad. You see, I feel that sometimes when we have a right to something, our heritage is taken away from us and we become poor. And because of poverty, we steal some of these things. I feel that the legal system must have a way of having alternative punishment.
Mr. Nana, are you suggesting that poverty causes people to steal?
I am
that
not
happens,
with
the state
600
the state should have sympathy for criminals.
How much are these people who are destroying the forest? How much are they earning in gold? The land on which they are mining those gold, the forest that they are destroying, who does the forest and the gold belong to? It belongs to the same person who has gone to steal.
But he stole something.
He stole something, but what I'm saying is, I'm not saying punishment should not have been meted. At least something, I find the person. 600 Ghana cedis.
This is not 6 cedis worth of pepper.
I know.
600 cedis worth of pepper. You buy pepper.
600 Ghana
So
cedis.
it means it's in bag.
Wait, Ms. Annan, are you saying that when we catch someone like this, because he's stealing something out of poverty, we should sympathize with this person?
Yeah, I am saying
that is meted out
I
to
am
this
saying
person
that we
shouldn't
were
be
in
jail
this
time.
country. We're in this country when some people went to a judge's courtroom.
That's a misdemeanor.
and threatened the judge.
That's a misdemeanor.
We're
in this country.
That's a misdemeanor.
Ms. Annan, I think crime is crime, right?
Millions and millions of cities. This somebody has stolen 600 Ghana cedis. Just find the person. Maybe 600 Ghana cedis. Find
Worth of pepper.
Or 1,000 Ghana cedis. Don't jail the person.
That's our time. After morning is former GJA president. James Kofi Annan is child rights advocate and 2024 parliamentary candidate for a Futu. And of course, Awal Mohammed is former director of communications for the Youth Employment Agency. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for breakfast. I wish we had more time to dissect Mr. Annan's story. But please stay because sports comes up next on the AM show. We'll be right back. Mr. Annan, he's a